last one first?
You need to.
Maybe that would help.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The time Lassie and me shaved her coat off. Watching Uncle Petrie clip the sheep gave me an idea. So after dinner, when Gramps and Uncle Petrie took their pipes, I sheared Lassie clean to the skin. A week later, girl got too close to a lit blowtorch, and Dad wondered why we never thought of shaving her before. The time Lassie mounted a wild boar by Bud Backen. I was nearly too old to have a dog, and Lassie was ancient herself. Sometimes too aged to swim and climb and kick ass on cougars and wildcats that threatened my life every day. But the old girl still old girl still had it in her to mount the wild boar I'd stoned to death near Cully's. Good girl, I said as she humped and panted and whined and fell over. What's the matter, girl? Can't you take it anymore? Just then the dead boar gargled and seemed to say, this is sick. This is sick, Timmy. But girl was wagging her old tail, chewing big bloody holes in its neck. The time Lassie did Red Cross on Cully by Bud Backen. It could have happened to anyone, but when Cully got caught in the...
Take 2!
Could have happened to anyone, but when... Could have happened to anyone, but when Cully got caught in the raging current of Miller's Creek after the big storm, Lassie heard his screams and ran, so I chased and found her up to her neck in the frothing swell, trying to pull Cully out by the throat. I did what I could with a stick, but it was Lassie that finally saved him, and we got him on land.
What?
His neck was gone.
You got one more lousy poem you can get through.
1991. Holy shit.
1991. We were kids.
The time me and Lassie died
All right.
by Bud Backen. I had a long way to go, I knew it too, but that didn't make anything easier for me and Lassie. Girl was thirsty and needed water, so I told Lassie to go get help, girl, but she didn't want to. She was tired and thirsty. She needed blood. She was hurt bad. My leg began to throb. Suddenly it began to bleed. Lassie started to cry. I had 2 bullets left in Dad's gun, so I used them. But first I said, this is it, girl, I guess, and Lassie cried. I almost heard her say, I like you, Timmy, but it must have been the train. This is from Poetry Motel 17. Restful is Lucifer backwards. Kid Ned had a dog he called Lucifer. Just a little black lab, a nice dog. Fetched sticks, licked everybody, so friendly a pooch. He'd walk off with any stranger, any place, any time. Not the devil dog you'd expect a hound called Lucifer to be. Not the Satan 666 beast Lucifer. Just a nice little dog with an impeccable attitude toward people. But then maybe the devil is like that. He could be your dentist, your friend, even your dad. Just someone really nice who gets in close and drags you slowly down to hell. And hell is a place like the park where you're cursed to entertain some damn dog lord with this stick game for all eternity. Buddha sat beneath the bobo tree by Bud Backen. Buddha sat beneath the bobo tree and watched TV. And on the first day, demons devoured countless teenagers, all possessed by different devil incarnates, in a sexual frenzy, camping by Satan's gravesite. And on the second day, 15 world leaders agreed there's no such thing as evolution. And the price of oil increased 18 cents a barrel, while several 100,000 marched to legalize consciousness. And on the third day, several dozen toll-free numbers brought books, magazines, handy gadgets, confessions, girlfriends, records, tapes, CDs, videos, and a lot of other trash and nonsense mailed directly COD right to the bobo tree. And on the fourth day, all the good things to eat and drink and buy and drive were trained in Buddha's brain and washed down with beer and gasoline. And on the fifth day, all the sorrows, manifestations of stupidity reigned on the southwest corner of the state, while a tornado watch was still up for the rest of the Texas Panhandle. And on the sixth day, Buddha sponsored a child victim, sent money for the Amazon logjam, and heard about the earthquake survivors who lost everything but their Lord. And on the seventh day, there were plenty of laughs and cartoons. Evil was exposed, ignorance and greed banished, and the giants beat the Reds 6-5 in the bottom of the ninth. And on the eighth day, Buddha was enlightened by an evangelical actor who prompted him to send the rest of his cash. So he turned the TV off and leaned back on the bobo tree, exhausted and craving all sorts of weird shit. Boy, that's timeless, man.
Good, man. I'm gonna unlock the door in case anybody comes in.
All right, this is Poetry Motel number 20. I like to chain smoke. Bud Backen. I like to chain smoke like the paper mills and superwood. And when my pals drop by and smoke, it's like an inversion. And Murphy Oil kicks in to join the traffic. And those smokers outside the banks and MP&L standing in the cold, puffing away, adding to it all. When I think all about the crap that's in the air I breathe, I say to hell with it and have another cigarette. Wow. Grandpa's by Bud Backen. Grandpa's hunting shack was no place for children, where he kept his stacks of stag magazines, but nobody minded naked pictures out in the wild woods. It was the outdoor life stories about bears mauling families that got me. So I only went when Grandma came along because she didn't care if the bears came, and she'd let me sleep with her. We'd stay up late busy with card games, so I wouldn't read those magazines by the dim light of the camping lantern while Grandpa slept off his whiskey. Outside, Bud Backen. Ain't just a truck route for hazardous cargo. The sidewalk goes by my house. Is it so illegal to use binoculars on people? Already I have a bird book on the end table in case all I was doing saw a lot of eagles grab the glasses. Any law against that? What I'd say if caught. Maybe not eagles, pink birds with red wingtips. I see them now and again on the roofs of the houses, sunning themselves. Any law? Sure, sometimes a person will walk by. These birds follow people, sure. Women too, everybody, mostly women. Why? I'm sure other people have seen them pink with red here on the wingtips. If my arm was a wing right here, where my fingers are, Yellow eyes, I think. My binoculars are pretty cheap. I'd like to get a nature telescope, really see those little pink crests in the bushes. Wow.
Wow.
What was that about?
Birds.
Yeah.
You just described my sex life. That was disturbing.
So, this is Poultry Motel number 14. Way back in '88 now. It's about. Hi Lou, it's me Ed. By Bud Backen. Hi Lou, it's me Ed. Hi Ed, happy birthday. Yeah, are you having me over for dinner? You bet, Ed. Well, I hope you're not making fish. I hate fish. No, no fish. Good. Did you bake a cake? Yep, I baked a cake. Well, I hope it isn't that yellow cake. No, it's not yellow. Good. I hate that. You got ice cream? Yeah, I got ice cream. Well, I hope it isn't chocolate. I hate chocolate with cake. It's not chocolate. Good. We can eat chocolate with cake. It's crazy. Who can eat chocolate with cake? It's crazy. Well, see you when you get here, Ed. Happy birthday. Yeah, you bet. Okay, goodbye. Shit by Bud Backen. I've never wanted to watch shitting, though I've seen animals shit. And basically, the shit protrudes from the sphincter at a certain velocity and drops because shit is heavier than air. It has bulk, or it would float, and some fetid evoluted thing would have to fly around and feed on it. Plus, it would stick to everything and get in the window and smash into our faces as we scream down the road, blurring our vision, smelling up our lives. Yeah. Okay, this is from Poultry Motel 15. This is a true story, man. Last night by Bud Backen. Last night I dreamed I was in prison for the rest of my life, just for being around. And all my friends were there, and prison was a swimming hole all fenced in barbed wire, with hanging ropes and inner tubes, and we had to swim all day until supper, when they fed us real good, and then to the lounge for smokes and cocktails. Outside the sun was bruising flesh across the sky, and a whole flock of cardinals fluttered down into a tree. My friend said, "I've heard about this." And I replied, "I know how you must feel." I'm sitting here now by Bud Backen. I'm sitting here now with an ethereal feeling of peace. I would not hurt the fly that normally I'd hunt down and murder with my rolled up underwear, smacking a blow that could break the window. And I've set the cat food out for the squirrels. A few weeks ago I would have paid to exterminate the way they ate the bird food and ruined my jeweled tomatoes. I meant to find a pea shooter to hurt them, but never did because I forgot. And now I remember, and it makes me laugh. I've been so cruel and human, and now I am calm and benevolent like God. I've changed just like that, and it all started with pity for the cat left behind. When the shithead downstairs moved out, and if I ever run into the fuck again, I'd like to scrape his face off. Anyway, the cat killed himself. Probably a broken heart. So the squirrels get the cat food, just like the whole universe works. Sunrise and the traffic wakes up the way the birds did years ago, because I'm old and I remember the 1957 Oldsmobile Mr. Gooder had, our neighbor had, and he got up with the birds in 1957 because he worked at the paper. And his was the first car started on the block, and the first to accelerate away like a well-tuned fart. I was wakened at dawn because I had a window to the east, and I was young, and I'd whistle to the birds long before Mr. Gooder was even up, or my parents, or my brothers or sisters in the summer, and in the winter the sun didn't come up until I was halfway to school.
You know,
Okay, this one's Poetry Motel 23. Motel 23. All right. Nothing worse, Bud Backen. Nothing worse than the smell of dry summer. Those little boys are out smoking under the streetlight, planning another assault on Saturday night. As soon as they lick this liquor quiz.
calling me
Who,
out.
where, what, when. Seems Daryl should have showed up by now, and everyone and thing is motherfucker. I pretend these are my sons. Sharpen the strap Grandpa used on Dad. Grab a stick at the edge of the yard. Clip these smarmy punks to an inch of the street. Then buy them all the fifth of the good stuff. Show 'em how it's done. And for the first time in a dozen years, feel that young and stupid again.
You stop calling me out.
Here's Poetry Motel number 18, Summer and Fall. Doreen Campbell by Bud Backen. Doreen Campbell manages the produce section, 25 years this December, Crosstown Jubilee. Has grown old, ordering 605 celery bags, resigned herself to a pension with hospitalization and dental long forgot about being attractive or friendly, doesn't want flirtations, humor, or politics, long as the deliveries are before noon, when she goes to the Outback for lunch, packs ham and Swiss with a pickle, and Friday treats herself to a few cookies from the bakery, left of the deli, the ones with frosted and candied specks. She always been close to Alice, the head accountant, who weighs as much and dominates the college cashier, working her way up the ladder with a BA in psychology. Both Alice and Doreen divorced bitterly when their waistlines evolved, and celluloid tried to kill them or their husbands, who I must remind them of. What World War II did to the neighbor, Mr. Olson.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
By Bud Backen.
Oh God. His parents hate you.
We heard the Japs nearly marched Mr. Olson to death over in Mongolia. Fed him human poop and made him throw up. Me and Bobby Mahoney took turns being Mr. Olson and a Jap with a stick gun behind him, limping around the yard, mowing the lawn, washing the car, ordering Mr. Olson to get off the grass, making each other smell dog turds, pretending to puke. One day he caught us being him near a pile of Linda Hagen's dog shit. He said, "You kids go home. It tasted bad, but we learned to like it." Don't I Wish by Bud Backen.
Oh God.
Sure, I get horny just like everybody else, but because of my religion, I don't haul out the butter, find a magazine, call a phone number, hotline. I purchase a prostitute once a week who dresses me up like Jesus, and we talk over our philosophies. She anoints my head with oil. Then we solder our joints together in a bare naked frenzy of knowledge and understanding. Afterwards, she washes my feet, and then I go home feeling sated and holy, all for $50. And half that goes to Care International. All right, the old Tri-State Fair by Bud Backen. The old Tri-State Fair peep show by the pony ride blared hot Detroit Motown. Paintings of bikini babes lured me to spend all four big ride tickets on Virgin Visions with Mick and Roger who drove. Ticket woman said, "You're too young. Let me in anyway." Imagined we'd be wild, barking dog boys when the girls walked out skin naked on a sideshow stage. But inside that tent were 3 rows of a half dozen chairs facing a beaten tract of grass, where out bounced not one of the 7 babes painted outside, but obviously their mother, with tassels connected to the tips of her gaudy pouched breasts. She had a fat belly dance that rendered a shamefaced sullen and ripped off by the MC, touting us with "the more you clap, the more you see." Then the show was over. Back outside, all I had left was enough for a pony ride. But the ticket man said, "You're too big for the pony." So I bought some Winstons and had a Coke. You remember that night, man? All right, 1959-ish by Bud Backen. Wrote Marilyn a letter once, lied I was 18, but really I was 7. Her reply came, said, "See you soon, love, Marilyn." Nobody knows it, but she showed up one day when I was alone. Everyone else went to church. I took her to the basement room, showed her Dad's calendar. "Let's see you do that," I said. She frowned. "You boys are all alike. Well, all right." And she took off all her clothes. But it wasn't the same. I needed to be alone for this part. Sparky's Doghouse by Bud Backen. Sparky's Doghouse by the Willow is a barren wasteland where the grass won't grow for another century. The willow not only weeps but is stunted and pocked, mutated by 20 years of piss and howling and shit that layer the ground like a putrid sandwich of one dog's life, chained to a stake by a little house of painted lumber. Yeah. That's kind of protesty, you know.
It's not about us.
All right. This is Poetry Motel 24. All right. This is The Well-Fed by Bud Backen. The dates, the tickets, the dinners, the folks, the family, the drinks, the diamonds, the clothes, the cars, the careers, the laundry, the bills, the children, the schools, the church, the divorce, the drinking, the smoking, the unemployed, the aging, the aching, the hair loss, the boys, the bladder, the paunch, the liver, the bifocals, the gout, the bottle, the TV, the cigarettes, the TV, the bottle, the smokes, the TV, the smokes, the bottle, the smokes, the TV, the bottle, the TV, the TV, the TV, the TV, the TV, the TV. What P.T. Barnum meant was, by Bud Backen. Every hour, 60 suckers are born. Every day, 1,440. Each week, another 10,080 suckers, and in 1 month, close to 41,000 new suckers grace the earth. In 1 year, almost 500,000 suckers are given birth, about the same as cancer deaths. So all suckers smoke and dies, and those that don't aren't suckers. Whoa. All right, Helen Weston, Bud Backen. I guess things are different since Helen Weston died. She lived across the street, killed her brother in '46 because he came back with a Negro whore who'd lifted him drunk from a train south of Chicago and gave him money for the ride. Told her he needed a vacation. City was killing him. Wasn't that Helen hated her brother, only that the gun went off while she was looking at it, is what she told the judge, and 20 years later set set out from the hatch to live in the upstairs flat across the street. The landlord told me she used to toss most of her garbage out the window, and when he confronted her now and then, she'd lock herself in her bathroom and sing loud like Kate Smith.
We don't know anyone like that, Bud, right now.
This is called So, Buddy Backen. So. So if I snap and ever decide that the thing to do is absolutely solve all my problems by killing somebody, I hope I have the decency to call the police or doctor or the Marines or a priest or God knows who, as long as it isn't my parents, whom I adore and would never want to hurt. Maybe best some cop in another city or another state or country, maybe Canadian Mounties in western Alberta. So far north, all you see is dogs, up where a moose is called a moose, and a man is only there because he snapped. All right, in a Bar by Bud Backen. Jim sneers breathless at my shoes. Says women hate each other, man, and that's why they can't stand women haters. Because it reminds them of themselves. They're all a bunch of fucking bitches, if you ask me. So he blubbers over to a canker blonde dish, and in a blink, they're howling at everything she says. Beats me how he does it. I finish my soda pop and hump the limp night home.
Quit writing about me, fuckhead.
I remember big stuff, Buddy Backen. I remember getting very thirsty before I died, and my craving for sex was amazingly intense. One thing I did was sing and go through my large closet, tossing out everything I couldn't use. I remember living in a room with one door for many years, and most people needed a friend, so I got a telephone. And I remember the smell of fruit and vomit and diapers, and cars and trucks. And finally, when I died, I grabbed onto my throat and shit and rattled my last breath with the national anthem. There is no devil, and the rest is secrets and mystery, best left clouded in historical terror. Before me, Bud Backen. Before me, my brother was born in a barber chair and left home when he was 2 because he needed glasses. My sister, on the other hand, came over the phone one night and landed on the floor in a pink blanket, ruining stench of shit and baby powder. My father was the father of it all, and he used to feel sorry for most because they never had my food. And what kind of foundation for a bomb shelter best suits our purpose in life if 1 in a family of 7 gets sick and dies? And 1,000 years from now, we will seem awful banal to the people if they survive. But my dad said there are no shelters. We all melt. Jesus, I said, save us all. And so far, I guess he did. 1988, so. All right, now we're in Motel number 9.
Holy crap,
This goes back, huh? 87.
I'm telling you, fucking A. That's Ulbricht doing the cover. The German guy, Lloyd Ulbricht.
We'll go for a ride someday, Bud Backen. We'll go for a ride someday, stop and picnic. And I'll smash pitchforks through your flaxen hair. And we'll run the 3-legged race, toss cedar beams across the lake, belly up all the fish. We'll sing, we'll bleed on certain stones to find our way back again. We'll walk towards sunset shooting magpies, lighting the woods on fire, setting it adrift. We'll watch the sparks rise up to heaven, shoot the trains off track that shoot through the timbers. I'll snatch the eyeballs from every duck. You chop the webbed feet from seagulls. Save it all up in a gunny sack. We'll take it home with us. We'll spend the day mocking every crevice in each low ditch. We'll twist ourselves up in little balls. Let the bears lick our naked backsides. I'll bring along the camera. We'll make a day of it. Father's Day in Duluth by Bud Backen. Father's Day in Duluth.
I'm sorry.
It was hot today, with air so thick you could toss a Buick through it. And black clouds rolled onto us like an all-star bowling alley, big as the world. And I waited for the rain with all the windows open, hoping the sky would cook the gutters, boil the sewers, and wash all the houses down into the lake, except for my house and my dad's. And I'd call him up, tell him Happy Father's Day, Dad. And he'd say, I'm sure glad we didn't go to your sister's for dinner. Not to Brag by Bud Backen. Not to brag, but these shitheads I used to drink with still belly up every night. I go see them once in a while to listen to their same old cat calls and philosophical piss, and it makes me sick. And they complain about the scene and the games and the phony sluts disguised with the flaming red-eyed pussy they'd like to lay their sober tongues on. But it isn't the lack of a big hard-on that keeps them in their stools. It's always time to go. Get the fuck out of this tin can porno trap. Clear up to the closing. And then they offer me a ride home like slow motion murder. True Confession by Bud Backen. I never go to bars anymore. And I have to confess I never really liked Jack Daniels very much. And I got tired of wine and beer and Johnny Walker Black and Red. And I never drink anymore because I usurped what I could from it and moved on. So now I'm looking for a snatch with legs and an ass with brains that suckle Einstein while cooking a fish it caught all by itself. One stealthy flick of its rapid high heels, and I dream these things sober as a pincher. And it reminds me of something out of a cereal box I bought yesterday. And I didn't like the cereal one bit, but I just couldn't pass up the toy inside. Mr. Winter by Bud Backen.
Can I just say before you start, this is one of my favorite poems you've ever written.
Mr. Winter?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the right one.
I know, all of them. Like, I think we did a book of them.
Mr. Winter likes to indulge in the occult now and then. He believes in ghosts somewhere in the Hollywood Hills, talks to voices in the garage, could swear his MG is alive, sometimes hears it screaming, sees UFOs outside, melting car wax off the hot red enamel, spotting the chrome bumpers and spokes, bubbling the purple plastic dashboard, turning on and off the radio. Then they fly away, leaving him blind for a second as the spirit of his dead grandfather laughs it up in the basement wall. I Can Still See by Bud Backen. I can still see Dad holding his toast, telling me straight up, don't eat the snow. They say it's radioactive, just like the milk, and worst of all, the meat. Mom began to weep. Letting go her coffee cup, got up and left the kitchen. Then Dad told me for the first time about commies and presidents and the bombs and the big one and the one to end all ones, and now this. Just before I could finish my waffles, they announced the school closings. Too much snow all day. I dared to eat all I could. And nowadays I might be feeling it unless this is just what old age is. Wow. True, you know. In the Winters by Bud Backen. Guys in prison headed better, warm and fed, than me out shoveling for Dad. Always winter, same old cold, blowing snow, Dad making me shovel, scrape, salt and sand, going out to start the car. Dad like the guys in prison in the big house, warm and fed, me free outside starting the car, freezing my ass, just wanting it to be summer more, thinking up some crime to get thrown in jail till June. Good old by Bud Backen. Bill, life's a bitch and then you die Larson, told me and don't give me no shit about it. Well, I never did. Then I met his wife. So life is a bitch named Connie. And you die, so that's a good thing. No shit, said Bill. There.
What? This is killer, man. Absolutely killer.
This is Poetry Motel 26. Yeah, this come out when 98. Albert Hofstickler in Duluth, 1992, by Bud Backen. Whatever's 12 into 42, that's how many feet of snow we got. And 3 times 24 hours is how long it took. Then froze into a pair of tire ruts, interlacing the entire city. 5 days into it, Patrick McKinnon and I picked Huff up at the airport in from Austin, Texas to do a reading for Poetry Harbor and a workshop for the Lake Superior Writers Series, 2 literary organizations in Duluth. He was good to meet, an easy connection like sitting down on a park bench on a fine day and taking a long, fresh breath. My job was to chauffeur Huff through the tundra moonscape wherever he needed to be or wanted to go. I dropped him off at the Motel where he didn't mind leaving him alone. He had a view of Lake Superior and it was obvious he was entertained enough with nothing more than cable, Showtime, HBO, plenty of Benson and Hedges, and a notebook. Huff's reading wasn't until Sunday. Saturday was the workshop, but before it began he needed food. I knew of a spot, the oldest lunch counter coffee shop in town, the Duluth Grill. Felt Huff would be most at home. He was. I hadn't eaten there since back in my youth, when it was the only joint open all night, and it was old then. 2 Greeks off the boat ran it, slinging Greek omelets and gyros. Sitting with Huff brought it all back. At the workshop, I remember especially how Huff handled himself as a known critic, teacher, poet, believer, believable as day. Mostly I recall him saying the poem I brought needed nothing. It was done. And I've always considered that one of the highest compliments I've ever received. Sunday, we found out Huff dressed up for readings. Cowboy shirt, cowboy hat, cowboy boots, cowboy pants, cowboy tie, cowboy jacket. He read in his slow, relaxed drawl with a breath and rhyme he couldn't avoid. And ever since, I can't read his work without hearing him. The previous summer I had read Walking Wounded and wanted to know a man who could sit healing in a hospital and write simple poems. of everyone's suffering and trauma instead of his own, and make it poignant and compelling with such humble compassion. So when I did meet Huff, it was true. He was humble in his compassion and has compassion and is wise. He grew that way, and as his reading that Sunday evening on Icy November, the people gave him a long standing ovation. God bless Huff, man.
For Mr. Sanders. For Mr. Sanders by Albert Hufstekler. As a reverence to him, bud?
Mm-hmm.
The guy taught us more than anybody else I can think of except Todd. Peters was close.
Compassion.
How to write. I'll try and do it as good as he could. This guy was the best. For Mr. Sanders by Albert Hufstekler. The man across the street from my mother is dying of cancer. He is a simple man who ran a recap store before he got sick and liked to fish on his day off or work in the yard. I've heard it said that he was an alcoholic once, but he doesn't drink now, and when his father died, leaving him sole heir to their business, he divided it with his brother anyway, taking no thought of the matter. Evenings, he would often cross the street to my mother's to look at the yard with her, though he seldom came to the house. And the cancer started coming a year ago, so they took away part of his face. Then it came back, and he became paralyzed and sat in a wheelchair in the sun in the front of his yard. One day, Mrs. Sanders told my mother he cried because he would not live to see the children raised. I never really felt a part of Florida myself, but there was something very natural about his fishing and the way he moved about his yard tending the exotic Florida greenery. He seemed at home in the gray sand, drew on it, and nurtured by it and by the sun that you hear so much about down there. Now, this week, my mother writes that he's back in the hospital and that new cancers have been discovered. He will not come back this time, and the two youngest children will grow up without a father. And Mrs. Sanders, who worked only occasionally before, will take over the running of the business and the raising of the children alone, and that's how it will be. My mother, who lost a husband to cancer also, will comfort her when she comes over and say things she needs to hear from someone who can understand. And she will miss Jim crossing the street to stand by her in the yard talking of gardening. And this simple man who liked to fish and walk in the sun will not be there. But the sun and the fish and the store will be there. And the scarlet poincianas and the purple bougainvillea and Daisy in her lonely bed and my mother across the street from her and myself writing this poem in Texas at night in the room where I write. Writing to say that somewhere across the country in a white hospital bed, a gentle man is dying and something should be done.